Nadia, for those kind words. Contrary to what you may think, it was not my passion for education that led me into the field. As a young girl growing up in South Africa, I am not always proud to admit that perhaps I spent more time in detention than in the classroom. After many years spent as a rebel of sorts, the headmaster of my high school said, ironically, you would probably wind up being a very good teacher. This was apparent through my obvious leadership skills and the fact that I always had an answer for everything. Interestingly, it was my passion for Judaism that led me to education. I've always loved being Jewish, and I think that one of the reasons for that is because it was introduced to me very early on, both in the home as well as at school. Going to shul every week with my father, celebrating Shabbat, starting with the lighting of the candles each Friday night, the chagim, the songs, challah, all the food, and of course, our family. These are the celebrations that inspired and became part of me from an early age. After a long career in Jewish education at the preschool level, I have come to learn firsthand something that may seem obvious at first glance. Infants come into the world with a brain waiting to be woven into the fabric of the mind. Some connections in the brain are wired before birth, but many are waiting to be programmed by early experiences. The brain grows the most during the first 5 years of life. Therefore, the environment where the children spend most of the time developing should be organized and appropriate, where children are challenged to think and explore. In fact, most of the effort of nurturing and education must be put into action before a child's 5th birthday. It used to be that keeping children fed, comfortable, and safe was enough. Call it babysitting, perhaps. However, today's young children are spending a large number of hours in the new environment, childcare. Therefore, quality early learning opportunities where children actually learn how to learn are increasingly recognized as an essential part of the education continuum that extends through adulthood. Many individuals may not realize how important preschool can be, but what we as educators strive for is to use this opportunity to create a strong foundation for a young child, helping them to become confident in their abilities and enabling them to develop lifelong skills that will help them continue to learn. Another reason preschool is essential is a subject that very few of us discuss: early intervention. Play-based activities are key to learning in early childhood. All learning is through the senses. Touching, tasting, smelling, seeing, hearing are all sensory experiences. While no individual educator can be held accountable to knowing or recognizing all the signs, we have the ability to observe and identify children who learn differently. More often than not, parents cannot or do not notice that perhaps something is not quite right with their child. Several years ago, I had an 18-month-old child enrolled in a preschool, and after some initial observation, I had a feeling something just wasn't right. It may have been because the child only walked on tippy toes. It may have been because the child never looked you in the eye. But whatever the case, I waited 6 weeks and I called the mom and asked her to meet with me, and I told her, I know it's only been 6 weeks, but I think we need to get an observation. The mother, immediately concerned, agreed with me, but when she went to talk to her husband, who happened to be a doctor, he called me and came down on me hard. What training do you have? He demanded to know. I'm a doctor. I would know. He's a happy, healthy 18-month-old child. I felt so strongly that I said to the father, please get this done. Although the father was adamant that there was nothing wrong with his child, I urged him to go home and think about it and not wait another year or two. Don't let this go. A few weeks later, the father showed up at my office. He was very upset. He explained that he had had his son tested and he had the results. He wanted to come and see me himself. He thanked me for caring and picking up on something he had missed. It turns out that the child was diagnosed with autism and had to be placed in a different environment where his needs could be met. So, what is the lesson here? There are several. Firstly, parents cannot always pick up on these things the way that a trained educational provider can. Observation and assessment are crucial during these early years and in a good preschool, which most of us are fortunate to be able to choose from for our children, for our grandchildren. All of this will come into play. Secondly, early intervention is critical. With new learning and social disorders on the horizon every year, a diagnosis at even 4 years old can sometimes be too late in terms of helping a child develop the learning tools that meet their needs. So why attend a Jewish preschool? Remember, everything we learn in life, we learn first in our homes. Experiencing Judaism, really, learning about any religion beginning at the preschool level, is the optimum time for a young child to embrace customs and traditions. In the Jewish preschool, children participate in integrated activities which expose them to the stories in the language of the Torah and the celebrations of the Chagim. The Jewish year is a cycle that repeats itself every year. To enable a child's love of Judaism is to help them experience its many celebrations and its culture so that they can begin to understand what it really is about. Children truly are impressionable in that they imitate everything they learn. The information presented to them and the actions that are performed around them makes up who they become as people. For example, if your Jewish child experiences a Shabbat celebration each Friday in a Jewish school, and then you show them how that same ritual is performed in your home that night, even if it is just lighting candles and saying the bracha, you are setting the stage as a role model, making it much more likely that they will emulate this behavior one day. A favorite quote of mine illustrates, I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. Learning is not really taught. It is developed. Everything is developed from experiences that you have. If your preschool years are warm, and if they are nurturing, and if they are challenging, you really are prepared for life. I have been familiar with ORT for many years, knowing that there are ORT initiatives set up in Cape Town, where I am from, adding Jewish educational resources and tools to our students there and around the world. I am very proud to be honored this evening by an organization that truly stands for what I believe in. As Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Wise words. But even more specifically, early learning education is a far greater tool for success. Thank you so much to all of those who were instrumental in making this evening an inspirational one. To Robbie and Keith,